In our galaxy of superstars this time, Brains, the Beauty, the Brawn, the Bewitched, and the Bewildered.
A relationship, I think, is like a shark. You know, it has to constantly move forward or it dies. And I think what we got on our hands is a dead shark.
His searing observational wit and kooky paranoia have tickled the fancy of legions of film fans, while his self-obsession and inability to finish a sentence have alienated millions of others.
Drawings, right? And they're really, you know, strike-oriented, kind of... stop me before I make a complete imbecile of myself.
But love him or loathe him, Woody Allen is an institution. As a writer-director, he's made more films than most actors.
Mental proportions, it's moving, it's rich, it's tense, it's taut.
And as an actor, he's given hope to balding, bespectacled neurotic hypochondriacs the world over, for turning stammering into an art form, and for always getting the girl. Despite his incredible success, he's known for being painfully shy, and was once quoted as saying he'd never join a club that would allow a person like him to become a member.
Happen to pass away while we're doing anything, just have the...
His catalogue of nearly 40 films is mostly made up of comedies set in his beloved home city of New York, often casting himself in the unlikely role of romantic hero.
No, I forbid you to go. I'm forbidding. Put our heads together.
If we put our heads together, you'll hear a hollow noise.
Are you always funny?
But it was his on- and off-screen romance with the equally kooky Diane Keaton that helped produce arguably the best film of his career. Annie Hall in 1977 won Allen 2 Oscars for Best Screenplay and Best Director.
What do you do when you get stuck on a movie line with a guy like this behind you?
Wait a minute, why can't I give my opinion? It's a free country.
He can give you. You have to give it so loud. I mean, aren't you ashamed to...
21 Oscar nominations later, he continues to pump out projects at a rate of more than one a year. His films have met with varying critical and box office fortunes, and Allen is the first to admit he never knows when he's on to a winner.
Well, you don't. I mean, you just keep working, and some come out good, and some don't come out good, and, you know, it's just up in the air. There's nothing you can do to make it happen.
Some of his better-received films have included Hannah and Her Sisters, Bullets Over Broadway, Broadway Danny Rose, and Purple Rose of Cairo. By the 1990s, his far-fetched storylines were being eclipsed by his real-life dramas, and Allen's critics saved their most scathing reviews for his private life, when he dumped long-term girlfriend Mia Farrow for her adopted 23-year-old daughter, Soon Yi. Rubbing salt into Farrow's wounds, the couple went on to marry an adopted child. But well used to ups and downs in his career, Allen weathered the storm, and in 2005, at the age of 70, he jumped genres to triumphant effect, with the release of Matchpoint, a suspense drama centred on the life-or-death dilemma of a social climbing tennis pro.
I've gotten used to a certain kind of living. Am I supposed to give it all up?
Do you miss me?
Are you mad calling me here?
If you don't have the nerve to do it, I'll do it.
I cooked it up. It's not rocket science. I sit in a room and I get these ideas and I make them into films, and some of them are good ideas and come out good, and some of them don't. This one I was very lucky with, and it came out, you know, very well, actually.
Do you feel guilty?
Swapping comedy for drama wasn't Allen's only leap of faith. He ditched the familiarity of downtown New York for the upper echelons of London society.
It was not very different than New York because it's a very big city. It's got the same kind of traffic and high population and nervous tension and culture and museums and bookstores and records and, you know, theater. And so it was not a radical difference than shooting in New York, really.
Allen was so taken with Matchpoint's leading lady, Scarlett Johansson, that he wrote his next film, Scoop, for her. Set once again in London, Scoop is a comedy fantasy mystery about a young journalist who's investigating a murder with the aid of a dead writer and an aging magician played by Allen, who's not planning his own disappearing act.
I don't think about it because I don't feel that what I do is anything to retire from. It's not work for me. I mean, if I was retired, I would get up in the morning and write because I like to write. So It's not that I'm working repairing sinks or television sets or something, and I want to finally say enough is enough. I like writing, and I'm getting paid to play baseball or something.
Scarlett Johansson brings a healthy dose of voluptuousness to a red carpet more regularly populated by female stars who weigh little more than their coat hangers. She's topped just about every poll of the world's sexiest women, and her response to all the fuss has been simply, "Maybe people think I look sexy because I feel sexy. I'm very liberated that way." Although she insists she wasn't quite liberated enough to have had sex with Benicio del Toro in a lift, as claimed by a Hollywood tabloid. Her Danish-Polish heritage grants her an inbuilt exoticism. Then, of course, there's her voice.
Did anyone ever tell you you play a very aggressive game?
Her sultry huskiness, which may or may not have been the happy result of a tonsillectomy she underwent as a child, belies the immaturity of her years, and no doubt helped her score the plum job as spokesperson for Calvin Klein.
It's been amazing. I mean, it was a sort of easy pairing. They asked me to do it, and I said yes immediately. I mean, they have this list of iconic beauties celebrating all their products, and how could a girl say no, you know?
In fact, Scarlett is so hot right now that some critics of her film Black Dahlia have called her sexiness overpowering.
Elizabeth and I made love once. I just did it to see what it would be like with someone who looked like me.
I don't know, it's hard to get a perspective on that when it's you, I guess, but I hope that's not true. I mean, it's nice to be sexy and everything, but hopefully that's not overwhelming, hopefully it's in balance with the rest of the story.
You should.
Aside from her impressive physical assets, she has a CV that would upstage most actresses twice her age. But then she began her acting career at the age of 8. Her appearances in films like North, The Horse Whisperer and Ghost World helped prepare her for a lead role in Lost in Translation and a period-hopping performance in Girl with a Pearl Earring. Both films earned her Golden Globe nominations.
Coppers, boiler, sand and soap. You'll get used to it.
Good morning, madam.
Don't speak till you're spoken to.
Yes, madam.
She was penciled in to star with Tom Cruise in MI3, but pulled out when scheduling conflicts rendered her appearance mission impossible. Having dodged one flop, she walked straight into another alongside Ewan McGregor in The Island.
I'm ordering you to contain the situation. Go, go, go! Do not let him get away!
She bounced back the next year in the film that also marked Woody Allen's return to form.
Actually, it was one of the easiest jobs I've ever had. I was kind of, I was planning on taking the summer off, and my agent called me and said, "Hey, Woody Allen is shooting a movie in London next week. What do you think?" And I was so surprised. I thought, you don't even have to send me the script. Yes, I do. I will.
Matchpoint gave rise to another collaboration, which finally gave Scarlett a chance to stretch her comedy legs. As a conservative American student in rimless glasses who discovers vital clues about the tarot card killer.
They hit London since Jack the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper. Is that capitalized?
Viewers with delicate dispositions will be relieved to learn that the trail of investigation does not lead Scarlett into bed with Woody Allen, who mercifully cast Hugh Jackman as her love interest.
He's got a twisted mind.
I'm Peter Lyman.
Jade Spence.
My father's giving a garden party at the estate. I'd love you to come.
This guy's a serial killer. You gotta do something. He's been like this since last night. Audience loved it.
This trip is top-notch.
You need to celebrate. I'm scared.
Should we stop the monsters now?
I am the monster.
Critics agreed, and he received his first Razzie nomination for this performance as an escaped convict in The Chronicles of Riddick in 2004. However, the Golden Raspberry went to George W. Bush for Fahrenheit 9/11, and the former bouncer lived to run, jump, swing, shoot, and fight another day.
Who is this man?
It's Vin Diesel, whose big break came after he wrote, directed, produced, and starred in the short film Multifacial in 1994. Shot in 3 days for $3,000, Multifacial caught the eye of Steven Spielberg, who cast him in Saving Private Ryan.
My whole film career started in 1995 in the Cannes Film Festival. Then the next stage of my career was when my feature film got accepted. The feature film I directed, called Strays, got accepted into Sundance Dramatic Competition. That was the second festival. And then I got whisked away into the Hollywood machine.
You want a beer?
A few more beefcake character roles later, and Diesel screeched to the top of the Action Man charts as street racing gang leader Dominic Toretto in The Fast and the Furious.
I thought we had an agreement. You stay away, I stay away.
He consolidated his superstar status by playing an extreme sports athlete on a special mission for the government in XXX, which topped the US box office in its opening weekend. All those years spent working out and breakdancing as a teenager were finally paying off. By the way, he was also the film's executive producer.
Sweetie? What are you wearing?
By then, he was ready to let his hair down, well, at least by a millimetre or two. Keen to prove something softer lay beneath those iron pegs, he broke the mould to play a grieving husband in A Man Apart. Albeit a grieving husband bent on hunting down and blowing away every last one of the gang who murdered his wife. And Vin enjoyed taking on the complexities of the role.
What was challenging about the character was to play a character that was fearless on one hand, and on another hand, so obviously crippled and lost by the loss of his wife. That's what was fun about playing the character and exploring that range of emotions.
Say that again?
In 2006's Find Me Guilty, he showed an even softer side by piling on 30 pounds to tell the true story of Giacomo Jackie D. Dinorcio. A member of the notorious Lucchese family, Fat Jackie decided to defend himself in the longest trial in US history.
The weight came from ice cream. Quarts of ice cream.
Dinorcio, in a case of this magnitude, I don't think it's...
Growing up in Greenwich Village, New York, Vin reportedly got his first acting break at the age of 7, when he and some friends got caught vandalizing a local theatre and was offered $20 and a script on condition he came back to rehearse every day after school. His adoptive father also taught theatre.
I'm wearing this hat to make me look like a gangster. Because that's what...
Still, many critics feel Diesel has yet to put the act into action, even if they're not quite game enough to say it to his face.
Well, my opinion is I never feel like I have to prove that I can act, because I feel like I prove I act in triple acts. Because I approach every character the same way, with the same respect. It's just that some characters call for more physical training. Like on a Triple X or something, or Fast and Furious, a lot of the times the training and the preparation will be practical car driving, stunt car driving, or doing anything that you need for Triple X. For something like this, it's all rehearsal. It's all character-driven rehearsals.
His mission is purely to entertain.
Unless they can be stopped.
I just want audiences to enjoy the experience, or to get lost in the experience. I mean, my objective in making movies is that when you come to the movie, you can forget about everything else and you can engage in a story and take away from it anything that you need to take away from it. It should be ultimately a personal experience for everyone that sits down in the theater.
You remember your home world.
Producing and directing himself in his next big project, Hannibal, Vin Diesel looks set to conquer the world. Anyone who's got a problem with that may want to carry a torch.
You're not afraid of the dark, are you?
He has no idea.
If there's one person on the planet who seems to lead a charmed life, it would have to be Oscar winner, UN ambassador, model, mother, millionaire and wife, Nicole Kidman. Being presented with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, she was introduced as the epitome of success. And even Nicole had to admit she'd come a long way from home.
As a kid growing up in Sydney, Australia, this is sort of amazing to be standing here and becoming part of a Hollywood tradition that's been around for so long and will be around for so much longer.
After blowing into Hollywood on the back of Dead Calm in 1989, she caught the eye of Tinseltown's most eligible bachelor. Fending off media speculation about Tom's sexuality and the validity of the marriage, they reigned for the next decade as the world's most glamorous couple, adopting 2 children and starring together in 3 films, including Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut.
Baby did a bad, bad thing.
When Tom broke up the happy home in 2001, Nicole commented that finally she could wear heels again, and her career really started to soar. Her role singing and dancing turn in Moulin Rouge won her a 2nd Golden Globe and made her E-Celebrity of the Year.
I believe you were expecting me.
Yes.
And a swag of successes followed.
He has no idea.
I wish, for your sake, Leonard, I could be happy in this quietness.
One day I'll fly away.
I don't know if this is such a good idea, you know.
Today, birthday.
Happy birthday.
When this war is over, there will be a reckoning.
Having truly arrived, she wasn't going anywhere. Her face graced nearly all of the world's major magazine covers, including Playboy and Vanity Fair. And she won a People magazine poll for Most Wanted Skin. It's an attribute she fiercely protects. According to best friend Naomi Watts, she never crosses the road without a hat. But she proves she was so much more than a pretty face, when she won an Oscar for her portrayal of Virginia Woolf in The Hours. Donning a big nose and an English accent, she even taught herself to write with her other hand to nail the part.
It's mine and mine alone.
The voice that you hear.
It is not. It is mine. I'm dying in this town.
At 5'10" tall, she's had no shortage of male admirers, with romantic links to some of the world's most eligible men, such as Lenny Kravitz, Robbie Williams and Steve Bing, as well as with some of the less eligible ones. Her friendship with Jude Law, for instance, sparked rumours that she may have been at the centre of his split from wife Sadie Frost. She became the highest-paid actress of all time when she netted $3.7 million, as the face of Chanel No. 5 in a 4-minute commercial directed by Baz Luhrmann.
It's the right thing to do.
No one can steal our dream. No one.
But not everything in the garden is rosy for the world's most photographed woman, who's reported to be terrified of butterflies and suffers panic attacks when appearing at movie premieres. Away from all the glitz and glamour, she finds time to give back as the UN's Goodwill Ambassador for the Development Fund for Women.
But I'm ready to go, and I want to work, and I don't want to do it in a superficial, glib way. I want to be, I want to be able to sit here and really have the weight behind me and the knowledge behind me.
Never far down People magazine's best dress list, her favourite designers are Karl Lagerfeld for Chanel, Dior and Balenciaga, who designed the dress for her fairy tale wedding to Nashville superstar Keith Urban. Guests must have been presented with a very awkward dilemma. What do you give the bride that already has just about everything? Still, 2 months later, when Keith Urban checked himself into rehab, anyone tending towards envy would have received a timely reminder that nobody's life is perfect. He's the guy that kids love and mothers hate. At least that's what he thinks.
The thing about Ozzy is he's made a lot of big hit recordings. Party with the Animals, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, Facing Hell, Black Skies, and Bloodbath in Paradise. Ozzy, Mom loves your stuff.
Perhaps she'd worked out that Ozzy Osbourne's bark is much worse than his bite. Unless, of course, you happen to be a poor, unsuspecting bat lined up for sacrifice at one of his live shows. Or perhaps she simply looked behind the black fingernails, heavy eyeliner, tattoos and devil worship and saw a young boy with learning difficulties who was bullied at school and suffered from clinical depression. The only person who gets away with bullying him these days is Sharon Osbourne, who picked him up and dusted him off after he was dumped as lead singer of heavy rock band Black Sabbath in 1978. Taking over from her father as Ozzy's manager, she's credited with rescuing him from the brink of drink and drugs oblivion. And now she's got him designing T-shirts for charity.
And what could be better than to have an Aussie stickman on the back of a shirt? And what could be better than Ozzy? I didn't make him. He decided that the money for the shirt would go to my colon cancer charity. And I have the Sharon Osbourne colon cancer program in association with Cedars Sinai.
But while Ozzy may often come across as a shambolic mumbler, he can still crack the funnies.
What other career would you choose?
Prison.
Dubbed the Prince of Darkness, he helped Black Sabbath to album sales of over 26 million in the US alone. He then found solo success with Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, and toured frequently until the early 90s, despite being diagnosed with bipolar disorder and battling addictions to heroin, cocaine and alcohol. The final straw came when Ozzy went on a killing spree, slaughtering all 17 of the couple's cats. Sharon found him cowering under the piano, clutching a shotgun and a knife. Still, one man's trash is another's treasure, and MTV was so enthralled with the Osbournes' car crash lifestyle, they filmed the family for their show Cribs. Sharon did a deal, and for the next 3 years, the Osbournes did all of their dirty laundry in public.
Get off my car!
The Osbournes gave MTV their highest rating show ever, leaving Ozzy more confused than usual.
Living as fools. It's a 7.2, and I'm going, what does that mean? Convert that to records. If I had a 7.2 on a record, it'd be a multi-mega platinum. And to this day, to me, the full impact of it hasn't really sunk in.
He was even more surprised when he was finally awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
I gotta tell you guys, I was absolutely, totally surprised by this one. But I gotta get rid of the thanks. I'd like to thank Johnny Grant, Marilyn Manson, Robbie Williams, Epic Records, my family and friends, and last but not least, you fans, guys. To say this is an honor is not enough, you know. I'm just so overwhelmed with you guys turning out so early in the morning to see my old butt. And once again, thank you very, very much. Thank you. I love you all.
Another shock was in store when he fell off his quad bike, breaking his collarbone and a vertebra. But he was ready and waiting for a burglar who broke into his home a year later.
Time when I had to go to the asylum, as I said earlier on, I acted purely on insult. On hindsight, it could have been a lot worse. I could have been like George Harrison. I could have been badly injured or anything, could have shot or anything. I'm unhappy in one respect, but happy in the next that it could have got really ugly.
Another lucky escape for a man who's had so many brushes with death. One might think he could have made a pact with the devil if he wasn't so darn cute.
We're going through changes.
Inability to finish a sentence have alienated millions of others.
Drawings, right, and they're really, you know, strike-oriented kind of. Stop me before I make a complete imbecile of myself.
But love him or loathe him, Woody Allen is an institution. As a writer-director, he's made more films than most actors.
Mental proportions, it's moving, it's ripped, it's tense, it's taut.
And as an actor, he's given hope to balding, bespectacled, neurotic hypochondriacs the world over, for turning stammering into an art form, and for always getting the girl. Despite his incredible success, he's known for being painfully shy, and was once quoted as saying he'd never join a club that would allow a person like him to become a member.
I'm gonna pass away while we're doing anything, just have the...
His catalogue of nearly 40 films is mostly made up of comedies set in his beloved home city of New York, often casting himself in the unlikely role of romantic hero.
No, I forbid you to go. I'm forbidding. Put our heads together.
If we put our heads together, you'll hear a hollow noise.
Are you always funny?
But it was his on- and off-screen romance with the equally kooky Diane Keaton that helped produce arguably the best film of his career. Annie Hall in 1977 won Allen 2 Oscars for Best Screenplay and Best Director.
What do you do when you get stuck on a movie line with a guy like this behind you?
Wait a minute, why can't I give my opinion? This is a free country?
He can give you. You have to give it so loud.
Private life, when he dumped long-term girlfriend Mia Farrow for her adopted 23-year-old daughter Soon Yi. Rubbing salt into Farrow's wounds, the couple went on to marry an adopted child. But well used to ups and downs in his career, Allen weathered the storm. And in 2005, at the age of 70, he jumped genres to triumphant effect with the release of Matchpoint, a suspense drama centred on the life or death dilemma of a social climbing tennis pro.
I've gotten used to a certain kind of living. Am I supposed to give it all up?
Do you miss me?
You're mad calling me here.
If you don't have the nerve to do it, I'll do it.
I cooked it up. It's not rocket science. I sit in a room and I get these ideas and I make them into films, and some of them are good ideas and come out good.
I mean, aren't you ashamed to...
21 Oscar nominations later, he continues to pump out projects at a rate of more than 1 a year. His films have met with varying critical and box office fortunes. And Allen is the first to admit he never knows when he's on to a winner.
Well, you don't. I mean, you just keep working, and some come out good and some don't come out good, and, you know, it's just up in the air. There's nothing you can do to make it happen.
Some of his better-received films have included Hannah and Her Sisters, Bullets Over Broadway, Broadway Danny Rose and Purple Rose of Cairo. By the 1990s, his far-fetched storylines were being eclipsed by his real-life dramas, and Allen's critics saved their most scathing reviews for his private... In our galaxy of superstars this time, Brains, the Beauty, the Brawn, the Bewitched and the Bewildered.
A relationship, I think, is like a shark. You know, it has to constantly move forward or it dies. And I think what we got on our hands is a dead shark.
His searing observational wit and kooky paranoia have tickled the fancy of legions of film fans, while his self-obsession and